Good morning and welcome to the kids part of the service. I wanted to tell you that today we're going to start a new topic. We're going to have a new story that we're going to explore. We're going to study it and go into some of the details about it. It's a story that takes place in the Bible, so it's a true story. And whenever we want to look at a story or read a story, we usually like to know who is the story about, where does the story take place, when did the story take place, when did it happen, and why is it important for us to read it, or what will we learn from it. So I'm going to leave the who for just a little bit and let you kind of guess as we go along perhaps who it might be about. The person is famous, I would say. Famous, like really well known. And by that I mean, I think if you went anywhere in the world, you could ask if the people there knew the story of this person, and I think in every part of the world they would say yes, they've heard, and they know that that story is in the Bible. I wouldn't say absolutely every single person in the world would know, but everywhere in the world they would know about this story. So think about who it might be about. And then thinking about where it took place, I got this globe here and I put a little star on where we kind of live here in Milton. And funny enough, the story didn't take place in Milton, and it didn't even take place in Ontario or Canada or North America. And so I wanted to show you, because I think it's a little easier to visualize sometimes. If we spin this globe, we go all the way across the ocean and across quite a bit of land, and we stop here and somewhere in the Middle East. That's just about where the story took place. So that's the where. Then we want to think about when did the story take place. And I have a very simple timeline for that. I started here with where we are today in 2021. So this is us. And just for reference, so that you kind of get an idea, 2,000 years ago is when Jesus walked on the earth. And then about 2,000 years before that, or about 1,500, 1,200 years before Jesus, was when this story took place. So you can see that it's a very old story. It took place a long time ago. And yeah, who is it about? Okay, let's see if you guessed. It is somebody who's pretty famous, someone who's pretty well known, and it would be the story of Abraham. Okay, so we know the who, Abraham. We know the when. It was all about 1,500 years before Jesus, which was 2,000 years ago from us, so about 3,500 years ago. And we know where. It was quite far away from where we are now. But why? Why do we want to know more about the story of Abraham? Well, there's kind of a couple of reasons. I was thinking about it. The one is that, God from the beginning has wanted to tell us who he is so that we would get to know him, and then we could love him as he loves us so much. He wants us to know him and love him. And so this is part of that story, and it's a part of the story that really takes a big turn between God and people. So we'll talk about that more as we go along, but it's a very important story in that bigger story about who God is and how he wants to be in a relationship with us. He wants to know us. And the other reason that it's really important for us to study this story and to look at it and what we can learn from the story of Abraham is because Abraham believed God and Abraham obeyed God. And we can do both of those things today. And that's something that Abraham showed us some amazing times in his life when he chose to believe God and he chose to obey God. And so it'll be really fun to discover those ways in his life. It was a very different life, as I say, lived almost 3,500 years ago. So it was a very different kind of life, and he didn't have all the old stories that we have. to sort of guide him. It was a very different kind of life he was living, and yet he still chose to believe and to obey God. So where we see God first talking to Abraham is that he says to Abraham, I want you to pack up all your things, and I want you to leave your home and your family and your country, and I will take you to a land that I have prepared for you. Now, in Abraham's day, they lived in big groups of people. They lived in community. The families lived generation after generation together, and they had lots of animals, that they needed a lot of space, and they needed a lot of people to support the way they did their work every day, because it wasn't like today where we can just live in a little house by ourselves and maybe our family lives far away. They all lived together and they helped each other, and they contributed to the work that needed to be done and all of that. So can you only imagine what Abraham must have thought when God said, let's go on a trip? I think if somebody said to me, pack your things, we're going on a trip, what do you think the first question I would ask would be? I think I'd be saying, well, where are we going? What kind of stuff do I take? How long will we be gone? And what's it going to be like when we get there? How long are we staying? And I'm sure Abraham had some of those thoughts going through his head, don't you? But God didn't tell him all of that. He just said, I want you to pack up all your things, and we're going to go. You're going to start on a journey. You're going to start on a trip, and I'll just guide you as you go, and I'll get you to the land that I have prepared for you. So I was thinking that is a little bit like that game. I don't know if you play it. I play it with my grandchildren still. I think I played it when I was a kid, where you say, like, somebody's hidden something, and then the people are trying to find it, and as they're walking, you say, you're getting warmer, getting warmer. Oh, you're getting colder, colder, so they turn back, warmer, warmer, really warm, you're almost there. So you're trying to guide them with your words, with your hints, to where the thing is that they're supposed to find, whatever it is that's hidden. So I think that must have been in some sort of silly way, really somewhat what it was like for Abraham. He just was to pack up all of his things, and his wife Sarah went with him, and his nephew Lot, and then they had all these families that traveled with them. They would have been the people who worked for them, and they had all these animals. It said they had goats and cattle, and they had sheep. I'm sure they didn't look quite like this, right? And they probably put a lot of things on camels and donkeys, and then they just started walking, and they were sort of listening for God. Abraham was listening for God. It's like, you're getting warmer, you're getting warmer, so keep going this way. And throughout that journey, it wasn't perfect, because Abraham wasn't perfect. He didn't do everything exactly right, just like we don't do everything exactly right. He made some mistakes. But throughout all of that journey, he believed God and he obeyed God. And that's what makes his story really, really important, and a great story for us to learn. And it's part of what really made him become so well known all around the world. I mean, that wouldn't have been his purpose at all, but it is what happened, because it was an incredible story back then, and it's an incredible story today that we have the fun of exploring and learning about. So you're going to have some different faces here telling you parts of the story over the next few weeks, so it'll be really fun to do this, and we'll keep watching for ways that Abraham showed us how to believe and how to obey God. Thank you very much.